All right, sweet, man. Thursday, January 28th, 2021. Mike, Wall Street Bets. Here we are. I think the day's finally come of the collective movement where people are starting to actually fight back against the establishment, but this time through the financial system. You were just telling me AOC and Ted Cruz are now commenting, but so let's start with then Wall Street Bets, and let's get into Wall Street Bets, and then I think it goes from there. But for our own memory, and I guess for people that might not really know what's going on in the financial markets right now, there's a Reddit group called Wall Street Bets, I think there's like 4.2 million plus subscribers now to that subreddit, and they're just a group of like Main Street investors, like trading on the Robinhood app.
Yeah, just regular people. Doing the same thing that, Bloomberg has actually something similar to that, and you see a lot of these investors going on there, more of the Wall Street types going on there doing the same stuff. Now, the difference here is that one is rich and backed by Wall Street, and the other one is Main Street. So that's the base of that core, but now we're in this shit storm going on right now.
Yeah, and then this group pretty much figured out through doing their own analysis. Really, they've actually done a pretty good job from what I hear and I read on checking the numbers, and they figured out that there was, I think it was GameStop was the first stock that they started with. They
saw that GameStop was pretty much some of these hedge funds were actually shorting GameStop, actually borrowing shares and, then trying to flip it, making a profit. So, on this trend, you had people, there's a lot of smart guys and girls on that trend on Reddit, and I think now it was on Discord, but then Discord, that's another conversation. Discord blocked it. There's a bunch of stuff that happened from this.
Yeah. Right?
It's a chain of events currently happening.
Yeah.
This is historic and it's terrible for people like us.
Yeah, they figured out one thing that's not really being talked about is the fact that there was already fraudulent stuff going on with GameStop. So they had something like over 200% of open shorts. These hedge funds had open shorts against GameStop, which means that there was more of the short position than actual shares to be able to take that short position. So it was already
GameStop was fucked up.
Yeah, it was already a corrupt scheme to start with.
And that's what they were doing. They had a scheme. The thing is that this is what they do. They have these schemes and they look for these failing companies, right? Even Blockbuster is in the mix of this. Blockbuster stock was up. Blockbuster, what the hell do they do? They have a couple stores still open out, I think in Canada and in Washington State, but there's a bunch of companies that were in this whole pool. Now, these hedge funds got played with the same game they played, and they lost $5 billion. Particularly one of them. I forgot the name off the top of my head, but they got fucked.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
These Redditors, these kids that are sitting at home, they're able to run their own numbers and see the spreadsheets. It's all public information, so I guess they have an entire list of the most shorted companies from top to bottom, and they figured out if they can rally enough people together and then they buy the stock, they create a short squeeze. So these firms have to put up more money because they have to buy the stock at a higher price.
And then you got trolls like Elon Musk coming in. He's there propping, he's fueling the fire. He's actually joining in on this Twitter thread.
Yeah.
I mean, not Twitter, he said it on Twitter.
He's been moving the bus on Twitter.
Yeah, and he's saying stuff like game stonk, right? Stonk it's like the joke, stonks. And he was saying all this stuff. He was actually on Reddit, on this board, literally hanging out with all these people, and what that did was engage more people in. That's what you see right now. Dogecoin is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Now, I understand, but I don't understand how these two correlate. because Dogecoin is not a financial institution to be sticking it to. You know, one thing is sticking it to the man, which is like the hedge fund and Wall Street, but Dogecoin is not an institution, so a lot of these people are not like, oh, get on Dogecoin. This is the thing. It's like, all right, well, those are two different things. One thing is you're trying to make a quick buck, which a lot of people try to do with AMC and GameStop and all of that, but Dogecoin is skyrocketing, and what's going on with that? Let's see.
Dude, it's like Dogecoin's it's a meme coin, so it's like it was one of the earlier cryptocurrencies created after Bitcoin, but it's known in the industry as like a meme coin. It's a joke coin, but it's funny because it's still around. No one controls it because it's a no pre-mined centralized crypto, not like some of these centralized projects like you hear about now, like Ripple and a lot of these other ones. So it's truly decentralized. So no one can ever really hit the off switch. But the amazing thing about that Dogecoin is like you're able to see that no matter what, if the market collectively sees value in something, whatever that value might be, they're going to buy it. And this thing has been pumped and dumped like throughout history.
See, that becomes a pump and dump. That becomes, to me, I don't like the whole Dogecoin type of thing because what's the value in that? I don't see the value. You're just trying to have people pulling money, and you're trying to it's like a Ponzi scheme in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then like GameStop and all that, there's a game there. It's like how can you do this? How can you play this game with the big boys and it's different. It's not the same thing with that. So I think they're trying to align them together right now, and they're not the same. So I would tell people to be careful messing around with Dogecoin. If you want to be a gambler, go ahead. That's different, but it's not the same principle.
Let's go back to the regulations real quick because these group of Redditors figured out that there was open shorts for this stock, and they rallied a bunch of people to get it. They bought it. They started short squeezing it, and like there were some people that had made a lot of money. But you can tell in that Reddit group by just looking and reading through the chats, it's like the Occupy Wallstreet 2.0. They're young Americans, they're not even just Americans. They're global.
They're nonconformist.
They're young millennials or people that have been underserved. It's like an Occupy Wallstreet 2.0, and they're trying to send a message to the establishment with this, through the banking establishment, governments, and they're saying it. Like their open letter to CNBC was saying things like, this isn't about the money. This is about taking down the people that have caused all of the problems over the last X amount of years, talking about the banking industry, the hedge funds. And the fact is that, the hedge funds now and the regulators are saying stuff like, we can't allow this. This isn't right. But the fact is that these type of market structures have existed for the small 1% or the 0.01%, right? And the rest of the market now can't do the same thing. But today we saw that these regulators removed the ability to even trade this stuff on Robinhood or all the brokerages. So, at the end of the day,
literally they're canceling orders.
You crashed the market that you were trying to say that you said stuff like they can't do this because this isn't safe for the investor. But the fact is that by canceling or removing the ability for them to even sell their stock, buy the stock, you've now created the crash that doesn't hurt the actual investor. So it's a double-edged sword, and I think it's just a vacuum that they're going to create. Like all of this censoring, all of the removing of these stocks, like you're just creating a vacuum because there's millions of people that are in this movement now, and I think that's what they understand.
Oh yeah, and it comes with the people on this thread are the same people that are independents. A lot of these, there's people that are Republican and Democrats in there, but a lot of the people on here have been the same people that have been driving the meme culture, right? All these people in the meme culture, they're on the sidelines, they're sick of government, they're sick of Republican, Democrat, they're sick, they're pissed off about the media. With the whole thing what happened with Trump, that they banned him off of Twitter and all that, these are the same people that are pissed about that. A lot of them are. The majority are. And then on top of that, like many of us said, once they stop, they did it to Trump, they'll start doing it with everybody else and with everything else. That's what they did. Look, we're still in fucking January, man. It went with an election. It went with the inauguration, the whole Capitol stuff, and then the ban. And now we are here, and they banned that forum on Discord, which Discord was like an alternative, like a little spot where people could get together and not get blocked, right? That's what a lot of people used to go there for. Yeah. And look what happened last night. They blocked it.
I was trying to join as it was getting blocked, and it said like service unavailable. And then it came back on though. They have something like 70,000 plus people in that Discord. It's insane, dude. On the actual chat page, you don't have the ability to read who's posting stuff because it's going up so fast.
Yeah. So then you got Reddit. They closed up that Wall Street forum, right? Mm-hmm. They closed it up. Yeah. They stopped it. Free speech. Reddit was supposed to be a free speech platform, and it has become the same thing as a Twitter. These organizations, it's like, they forget who they serve. And that's what happened with Robinhood. Robinhood only became popular because they're people that they serve, their customer, or just regular folks. And now look, they pretty much screwed them over. But then let's go in depth with, like, what is Robinhood? Robinhood is just a company that is pretty much funded by another hedge fund. That other company is called, what's the name of?
Citadel?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the business model of Robinhood, right? Is that Robinhood takes the data from the user, so when they go to click buy stock, Citadel knows that you're going to buy the stock before the trade's complete, so they can front run it. That was the thing about what happened too, is that
they're looking at the data in real time, and then they're making the shifts in the market for themselves, so they're profiting twice.
That's a joke, dude, is that off of that trade, so let's go to like that one, I forgot the hedge fund now too, we got to bring it up after, but Mercer or something, but yeah, but anyway, so like, right, so as this short squeeze was happening, Citadel was front running it, profiting, and then the actual hedge fund that got squeezed from the short lost, like you were saying, $1.5 billion plus, and they had to get bought out, essentially bailed out by Citadel. They had to borrow money from Citadel, the same firm that was profiting from their own destruction, and Citadel got a stake. They bought them out. So like now Citadel owns the rights to that hedge fund as well, and it's so it's like it's such a fucked up kind of system.
That looks like a fucking takeover, a corporate takeover. That's what that looks like.
Maybe that'll happen. There'll be a consolidation of the banks and the hedge funds then that way.
I don't know. Well, yeah.
You think it'll all roll up to the Fed then? Like we've talked about the Fed providing, like the Fed being a commercial bank like commercial banks are today. Because like right now the Fed, the only customer of the Fed it's the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, and then all the big banks and the major hedge funds. Not like people like us though. So if in the future they say, okay, now we have a Fed Now app, and all you citizens can open up a bank account with us on the Fed bank account, and we'll be your bank. Like, in order for that to happen, all the other banks and all the other hedge funds have to really go away. So maybe they get consolidated down in power now to these one specific structures, like you talk about.
That could be the real long game. I could see that as a real long game if totalitarianism takes over, which, honestly, it's not far from the equation with everything that's going on. But in the long term, right, something not too long away from now, I think it's more the Fed will hold your money, right, digital wallet, and then for your loans, you would have to go to these institutions for the loan. That way, these corporations still make the money. Because at the end of the day, it's corporations that will make the money. Now, right, we have the Fed. We don't even know who owns the Fed. We don't know
if it's the corporations or if families and entities like that, but corporations aren't going anywhere. Big corporations, the big freaking Fortune 500 companies, these are the multinational country types, supranationals. I think they will dictate. I think the future totalitarianism might be, I think it's going to be either state or corporate entity, one of those two.
And aren't they becoming the same? They're becoming the same thing now. Like we talked about the revolving door.
Government. Yeah, because government owns corporations. But then you have like a place like China. China government owns corporations. That's why China has so many issues. Because China is such a large market. That's why these corporations still can't push themselves away from it. They're vampires. They love to suck blood. And China's just this huge, luscious, vein that they could suck out of. But with that, they could, it's poison blood. That's why you see Google and China, they keep bumping heads. I mean, what happened with Alibaba? It's its own, right? Alibaba is this huge multinational corporation created in China. Jack Ma brought it up, to become a predominant corporation, and then China smashed it, took it, and hasn't let go of it. Now, everywhere else in the world, corporations do the opposite effect. Right. They take over the government and they squash it. And that's where we're at here in America. Corporations own everything. Everything that is going on right now is to keep propping up the corporation. And why? Because the corporation is a buffer between us and the 1% of the 1%. The 1% of the 1% protects their assets and their livelihood and their person with a corporate entity. Right?
Right.
That's not, that's money. It's public money in a way, right? It's corporate money. They could dip into it. They shift it around.
Right.
For their own benefit. They could do whatever they want with it. You have majority shareholders and they have shell companies. Multiple, Aetna. Aetna's one of their largest shareholders is BlackRock. And then you look, who owns BlackRock? And then you start seeing, well, the majority shareholder is XYZ. Which it's hard to even figure out who the hell is all these people that own BlackRock and the majority shareholders. Right. And then you keep peeling that freaking onion. Then it goes back to the same freaking people.
So that's what makes this movement unique then, is because this group of Redditors has identified exactly what you're saying. Like the corporations in the markets really are, that's almost like the kryptonite, right? Because if you can take down the businesses that run the establishment secretly, right, in the background, and they've been able to do it because the technology wasn't so good and people didn't rally together so much. If you can take that down, then it becomes a threat to the actual establishment itself. Like, what's to say that the sword can't be flipped and the market starts short selling Amazon or starts short selling, you know what I mean? That's why I find this so fascinating right now with what's going on with these guys. And the joke was that this is what Occupy Wall Street should have been. Instead of protesting over there in the streets, join together and then commit some type of they call it
organization. That's what was needed. Right. That's why this worked. That's why the GameStop thing worked. Everything else hasn't worked, but the GameStop thing worked. That strategy worked because there was a group of people in a forum doing their science and their math and figuring out how they're going to do this. So you had a core group of people, and they were just, cracking away at it, and then they started to shift the money, right? Money votes. Money is a vote. $1 is a vote. Whatever. Gold is a vote. It's a vote. They started to vote for GameStop. And then with that came the next layer of the shell, which is, the people that are always listening. They start to think, oh shit, there's something happening here. Yeah. They jump on the bandwagon. Yeah. And then the media, there's a tension there, and then everybody that is outside, they start jumping at it, right? You just keep seeing that.
The guy from The Big Short was in on it. the famous
Yeah.
investor. He entered that trade last fall, so it's like they know, like you're saying.
Yeah, so that's how that works, and that works well. Occupy Wall Street, that was a gaggle fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, people all over the place, just, there was no organization. You can't get anything done. And you know what? Honestly, I think Occupy Wall Street, that was a fake. I think that was more of like a psyop type of thing. It was meant to be disorganized, because with disorganization, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
Why do you think unions work so well when they're powerful? Because you can extract as much as you can from a corporation or a big business for the workers. Now, a lot of people don't like unions because they say, oh, that's communist and all of that, but I'm sorry. We have communism, and it's called corporatism. So
there's a balance, right?
You have to have a balance.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't have that balance because America is a corporatist nation under the guise of capitalism.
Yeah.
There is no... Bro, I'm sorry. There's no more capitalism in this country.
There's not right now, and it's because there's the governing structure and the way society's functioning isn't allowing it to be a free market capitalist society. Like, we very much, I think people understand now that, like, we've been under this sense of corporate socialism. You know, the governments bail out the banks, and they don't really do stuff good for the Main Street person. So I agree with you. But going back real quick, I think with the difference between the first Occupy Wall Street movement and now, like you're talking about the organization, but the internet. I mean, the internet, these tools weren't even developed yet. They didn't even exist yet like they do today. Max Kaiser was talking about when he ran the whole crash JP Morgan buy silver campaign, and they had figured out the same exact thing that these Redditors figured out about GameStop, that JP Morgan acquired a company that had all of this exposed short positions on silver, and they knew that silver is like they know that it's one of the most manipulated assets in the world. But if you can rally enough people to buy it and then reveal the actual inefficiencies, JP Morgan would have gone bankrupt because they didn't have enough money even in the bank to cover those short positions. He rode that the silver price up from like $10 or $12 an ounce to $50 an ounce, and then everyone sold it back off. But he was saying the difference is that he didn't have a Reddit chat forum and stuff, and he didn't have the ability to reach so many people so quick to rally, to now go on an app that allows them to all trade at the same time in person. And that's almost the joke that I'm seeing now in society, is it's always the fight between the old generation even and the new generation in a way. It's the boomers that are of the high status that are holding on to every little thing they can, and you've got the millennials and the Gen Zers that are now the majority class that are trying to move up, but there's that struggle that exists between, you know, that old and new. And these kids understand technology. I mean, the meme stuff we talk about, like, these politicians don't even understand the whole impact of a meme. And that's why I think that this is just all a vacuum, because what the fuck are they going to do? There's billions of kids, young people, millennials, whatever, that they understand the new system, the new ways, the new technologies that are going to just overtake the old system. Like, the only way I see them stopping this from happening again and again and again in the stock market is if they completely censor everyone. And then they regulate the ability to buy. Like, they regulate it so much on who can buy and sell that it goes against everything that they're trying to say they want for the free market. Like, it's just fascinating, dude. So I think
that's
the
what
tech,
they're trying to do. They're trying to censor everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, and you know what? It's gonna happen. It's gonna, unless people do what's happening right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, right now the conversation that's going, the conversation has no political affiliation if you think about it. Doesn't matter if you're red or blue, if you're not affiliated with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. What you're hearing is people are sick of the status quo and these oligarchs that are in our country are raping the system and not allowing us to freaking play the same way as they do. And it's blatant, and we could see it. Everybody's seeing it in real time, and everybody's reacting to it. And since everyone's reacting to it, what this does is, if people understand, look, hey, we did something, we pissed them off, look how they reacted. We know what's happening. They're trying to censor, and they're trying to destabilize us as a society. What we need to do is do the same thing we did with the whole GameStop thing, with everything else, with the government, with corporations, with every type of institution that holds us down. Do that against them as a group.
Yeah.
And keep allowing it to grow. Big tech, especially. Number one, I think big tech needs to be the first one to go down. Big tech needs to get wrecked. They need to go back to Main Street. We need a Main Street type of big tech, not a Wall Street type of big tech. Meaning that big tech right now they're too big to fail. We don't need that. We need them to fail if they fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to get together and be able to bring them down to their knees, dice them up, so it's digestible for everybody and us have the power. Because with the whole GameStop situation, what it showed is that the people, if they get together and organize and understand what's really happening, they could bring these, institutions that are pretty powerful to their knees, and they will make them cry. And then now, since we did that, we could see how they have reacted and countered against us. Since we understand that and we see it in real time, then we could learn as a group to do that to them again, and stronger, and to government, and to big tech. Because that's the only way, honestly, that's the only way to slow down or stop this whole monopolization and totalitarian system that's coming. Because it's coming. It's coming, bro. We have freaking market manipulation in our face.
It's coming, but I think the bright side about what we're seeing now is that there's a global movement to fight against it, right? I mean, and it's
well, we
hope, but it's a vacuum. Like again, it's these big tech monopolies and duopolies that control everything, right? They're deplatforming people. They're now censoring people from trading, young people. They're creating they're creating their own worst enemy that's going to destroy them. Like these people are going to come up with a solution that is able to work around what's existing and then use it. Like unless like we're talking about full totalitarian government control, which could happen, like you can only use these applications and we're not going to authorize or allow any other way. Okay, say that. Fine. You have these decentralized private protocols now that are going to allow people the ability to communicate without you even knowing through mesh networks, decentralized servers and protocols where those servers aren't even hosted in one location. That's distributed across the globe. You can't shut it down. And I'm almost wondering if it's going to get worse before it gets better, obviously, but you start to see that like there's a global movement. Like the best thing about this Reddit thing that I've liked is that the only way that GameStop price was able to actually move in the aftermarkets, because in the aftermarket, in the U.S. aftermarket exchange, it was still going up. That means that there was people elsewhere around the world that were actively buying while we were sleeping here in the U.S. So that's a global push. They don't care about skin color. They don't care about issues. They care about Giabo, the fact that there's this global insurrection against banker occupation. Every protest that's happened around the world over the last 10 years that continues to happen is about wealth inequality, taxes, the wealth gap, and this awareness and awakening to the fact that there's a small group of people that are able to control everyone through a small group of tools and stuff. So my hope is that you're starting to see the actual amount of people that are willing to opt out and decide to use other tools and tech that government allows them to. And I don't think government's that powerful. Like I think once there's a large enough pushback against it, then of course it gets violent, because then they send the military in and stuff like that, and maybe do people
and
just
go. It's not
go
only
with
government though. The thing is, remember, it's corporatism. Corporations are the ones with the power, and they're the ones with the power because they have the government protecting them, right? So when they say pull a trigger, the government goes and pulls the trigger. That's these corporations. It's the party guy and these institutions of like Wall Street and big tech. The problem that the only situation is it an awakening? That's my question. My question that I'm trying to figure out. I doubt I'm sorry to be like the naysayer here, but I doubt that it's an awakening. It's only an awakening if you stay awake.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that these people, everyone that is working together to bring down the hedge funds and doing what they're doing right now, the only way it's an awakening is if they continue to diligently work towards all of the things that we talked about, bringing down Wall Street, bringing down government, bringing down big tech, these institutions, because you know what's going to happen. Days go by and the steam dies out.
Right.
Look, while regular people right now, okay, let's look at the psychology of the world. The psychology of institutions. Institutions are powerful, and they have employees that work diligently to pretty much crack the system and adapt to the system and they play the long game. Meanwhile, the rest of us are preoccupied with too many things. And we're like, oh, the shiny light. Oh, look, squirrel. That's how we are. We need to stop the whole squirrel mentality, that ADHD mentality of like, okay, that. We need to be disciplined and work as hard or harder than these institutions. Because while we're sleeping, yes, other parts of the world are doing trades and all that, but they're not sleeping. And they have entities all around the world doing the same thing against people like us. The only way that we could slow down and stop that is if we continuously build upon this. That means that there needs to be a strong movement continuously looking at all of these problems that we're going through and putting a stop. That means like when government, doesn't matter what politician it is, what party, we need to figure out, hey, this is wrong. Go up to the Capitol, go up to the White House and stop them. Go up and talk to...
You can't do that anymore, dude. It's a green zone.
Or again,
that's the militarism. That's the green zone now. Barbed wire, barriers.
That's what you get. This is what we get for being asleep. We're divided. They divide us.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed was mainstream. And Mike, give me a little camera move like that. There. Oh, there you go. You're a little lighter now. You were like the dark Sith back there.
Okay.
One of the things that mainstream media in the United States doesn't want to do is expose to Americans that yes, there is a divide in this country. Yes, it is bipartisan. There's polar opposites that are occurring and extremist groups that are organizing and building because of the fact that people are hurting so much from the system that they're deciding to go and polarize themselves. But also that this is happening everywhere else around the world at the same time. Because you don't watch mainstream media in the U.S. and learn about the protests in the Netherlands, the protests in Germany, the uprisings in India.
Good point. Media, that's one big issue we have, right? The media is controlling that. That needs to be stopped.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is like maybe out of the hope, if everyone collectively around the world just had the ability to understand this, right? If they had the information and they can see and they can collectively join together, would they do something? I don't know. And I agree with you. I think that it's almost
this happen though?
It's
Think of
too
it.
big.
If we keep allowing big tech to pretty much filter out and freaking and stop and censor, we're gonna get disconnected.
It's only been a couple months though. We have to give ourselves credit here, right?
Has it only been a couple months? They've been working diligently. Look, big tech has been working for years, right? Google has been working for years. Alphabet is a huge corporation. Facebook is a huge corporation. Somebody comes up with Instagram, they come and buy it. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes up with WhatsApp, they come and buy it. And they keep doing this. And they keep... Where are we going to... We go to Discord... We're thinking that that's an escape that we could come and congregate and they come and they block. Same thing, they're working hard, and we're not doing anything. Tell me, what are we doing as a society to stop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's
the internet from being centralized the way it is.
I look at like the censoring started on YouTube. Alex Jones got deplatformed a year and a half ago.
Slippery slope, right? People said it.
So, and that it was when YouTube changed their terms and agreements, and a lot of these, like Jeff Berwick, Dollar Vigilante, a lot of these guys said once that was changed, get ready.
Milo.
Yep, and Alex Jones was the first one, and then we slowly saw some more after. And this was a year and a half ago, right? And it didn't get until, I think, but because the average person is still using these apps, they're still like, okay, Alex Jones got taken off. Like, you know, I get it. It's starting to become an issue, and we're blind, and we're still using it because it's not affecting us yet. But it wasn't until the last couple months, and then now, I mean, these events like the election stuff just happened, or the whole stuff with Trump just happened a few weeks ago. So it's still very short term that people are waking up to the fact that, like, no, this is real, and it's getting real quick. And I think, to your point, what are you doing? But I almost think that we're still in this early window where, like, it's starting to affect people's lives. They're starting to realize it. They're getting deplatformed themselves, and now they don't have any other option but the alternative. So I want to give us another year to 3 years to see. I think it's an important window right now, because right now it either the resistance starts and these companies that have all these privacy focused fundamentals start really rallying people together and they get stuff rolled out within the next couple of years, or else like people just decide to opt in forever and stuff. And I don't know what that future looks like. I got to give us a little bit of optimism here though, right? Like, but we're still like, I feel like we're still in this 6-month window. Like these tools, like with Monero, for example, we talk about Monero, and like Tari is a platform that's being built on Monero, and it's a really big project because one of the co-founders of Ticketmaster is promised to now publish all online tickets, e-tickets, all these different tickets are going to be on Tari, but like that protocol is not going to get built out for another year and a half, you know. So
and you still have government and the monetary institution that we have pushing back on that.
Yeah.
So that's we have tremendous obstacles. And if we don't organize and figure out what it is that needs to be done as a society, if we actually care about freedom and we actually care about, living in a fair society like everyone wants, the majority of people want this, then we need to figure out how it is that we are going to put a block to these institutions. Because we look at institutions as a form of stability, forms of education, forms of many things for us to take advantage of. But those institutions don't exist anymore. What we have are institutions that are here to, command us to do what it is that they want for them, right? What it is that they want us to do for them. Like right now, what we're seeing. So what's going to happen over the next couple weeks after today? That's what we need to see. And on top of that, we can't forget that big tech is in this whole mix. All right, people are not talking about big tech, but they should, because big tech is one of the reasons why we're in this situation right now. If we don't put a stop to that, and also Washington, because Washington and the SEC, what they're doing a bunch of shit. And why are they doing that? Because the people on Wall Street are telling them to do that. Right. Mm-hmm. So how can we strip all of them of that power? If things go mute, then we become decentralized, and if that happens, then it's gonna take longer to get there. And like I'm saying, if it takes longer for us to get there, they're working day and night against us, the people. Yeah. So what are we gonna do?
Yeah, one of the concepts that we've talked about that are in that future state, we'll have to see, but I've heard of the concept of decentralized protocols disrupting traditional governance. And I know we've talked about it before, but like governments as we know them today, power structures as we know them today, not looking the way that they do in the future because of these decentralized protocols and governance structures that exist. And like maybe it's just a slow breakdown of this whole system that exists. Like, even this structure of a president that reigns over, senators and this whole political structure of a country totally gets disrupted. But we'll have to see, though.
Talking about that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Texas, I think it's one of the senators in Texas has filed paperwork to try to bring Texas into a republic separated from the United States, and that happened today.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because Texas is the only state that it could actually do so if they
Yeah.
wanted, and the governor seems like he wants to do that. They're saying that America is not, it's breaking the Constitution, and they want to break away in a way, which.
We're seeing this also with states like Miami and Wyoming that are actively reserving in Bitcoin for like the actual state treasuries. And there's the idea of like, what if those states are just richer than the other states in the future because they treat their people right, they attract a lot of residents, they now have like their treasuries are stacked. Can they break away from the other states because the other states aren't treating people correctly? Like,
The only problem with that, which is it's beautiful if it didn't include enemies, right? Right. Because you have, countries like China that would love for the United States to get broken down because that'll make it easier for a lot of stuff, right? China is pretty much expanding all throughout the East, like from China all the way to Europe. They have the New Silk Road. They're all the way into Africa. They're coming into South America, and they're really inside of America. So if you do have things like that happening in America, then you pretty much just left it open for them to take over in a way. That becomes a problem. That's why it needs to be a global community to stop these powerful entities, which is why Bitcoin, amongst many people, have become popular because it's decentralized. It's not a one country or a one race or whatever the hell. It's all decentralized. You need to not only decentralize things here, institutions here, they need to be international institutions. That's why corporations are so dangerous, because they don't have a nation.
Yeah,
they are decentralized. Look, perfect. They are decentralized.
Yeah, it's a good point.
What we want for us as a peoples to be successful and live well, they have that as corporations. No nation. They could freely trade in all currencies with no issues.
Yep.
They have that. This is their oyster. We need to pull that away from them. And at the same, but when we're pulling away from them, we have to also pull away from governments and emerging governments. Is that going to happen? I don't know.
Let's talk about what's next then, maybe for this group, going back to the Wall Street Bets people, because they've already talked about the idea of like shorting or buying other stocks. American Airlines today was one of the companies that got taken off as well, because that one jumped. I was watching it this morning on CNBC. It's like the pre-market, it was up 85%, and they were like, "Oh, we know this is one of the most shorted stocks," and here we go. But they also brought up, I saw in Wall Street Bets, they were talking about silver. We talked about silver. Silver is, from a historical perspective, it's played a role as like gold's angry stepchild, where like it's kind of been used as a reserve currency. It's been used as a means of exchange. Yeah, it's like right now today it's the most manipulated market in the world. It has the most naked shorts in the world, so it's the most manipulated market in the world, and it trades at a certain percentage ratio to gold's price, and right now it's already undervalued. It should be like some like $50+ an ounce. And I saw Kaiser adding in today with the talk, because the Wall Street Bets, that Reddit forum, they've already been talking about silver next. And they did valuations, and they were saying that silver's fair value right now could be upwards of $1,000 an ounce because there's so many naked shorts. So maybe we just watch this Wall Street Bets trail, and then maybe that's going to lead us to believe where this movement's going to go in the future. If these guys stay organized and more people join in, and they start really targeting like fundamental issues that like people in the know for the financials know that that's where the real corrupt money is, not just like Wall Street hopping on board, manipulating the story, and then using the movement to take advantage of like something for their own purposes, like they've been doing with a lot of these protests that have happened. But like, do these people start going against the right markets? I hope so with silver, because we've been talking to people about gold and silver. I know I'm sitting on some silver still, whether it's paper form or not.
$14 when we were talking about it, and now it's what 30.
Yeah, I think today it's up a couple percent too. Kaiser was adding in. He was giving them all the data. He's like, I tried doing this. Here it is, and it's true, dude. And it's also the most used metal for goods, and it's the most underproduced metal. So for the fact that it's the most used precious metal to make goods, which no one's really making goods right now, but it's okay. It's also the least mined metal. So there's a real shortage that exists in the markets. And it's almost like that shortage only exists because of the fact that Goldman and JP Morgan have been able to manipulate the precious metals market so much that people don't realize how much of an issue it is. They kept it
low for such a long time.
Real long time.
Right, they kept it low, so that means that there weren't miners out there looking for silver to mine because there was no money to make off of it.
Right.
Right, so that was an artificial type of market that happened there. So if it was fairly, assessed, we would have way more silver, and it would still be, affordable. Maybe not as affordable as it is now, because it's still affordable, but it would be more of a fair value. I just want to figure out. There's a lot of capital moving around, right now. You're talking about silver and all that. It's like all this money shifting radically. What does that mean for the market as a whole when there's it loses control? Because that's easy to lose control when you have money sporadically moving everywhere. I want to know what's going to happen because, number one, the market is already a freaking house of cards. We already been talking about the repo markets from early last year and from November of the year before that,
2019,
when the alarm bells were ringing with the repo markets. It was about to collapse a couple times. Since then, we had freaking lockdown and the markets almost collapsing, and then stimulus and all that shit. Now we have this, and we have excessive amounts of money being printed. We might have that happen again with the new stimulus if that ever happens. What would happen?
That's why I've always thought it was a controlled demolition. It's like because when we were reporting on all that, the repo market issues back in November 2019, like you can clearly see there was an issue. That November, it was recorded that the most CEOs, publicly traded company CEOs, left their roles ever in history by a large margin. It was off the charts.
They took their nice checks. And they went and they stored that in whatever assets they could that really maintained value. And they're freaking the CEO of Aetna. Yeah. CEO of Aetna made bang.
Disney, the CEO of Disney left too.
Yeah.
All of them.
And all of them. Yep. They all just left.
So now we're seeing the wake of it is like, the lockdown controls the population, prevents movement, gives a justification to these businesses going out of business, but the fact is that they're going out of business because they were, as in general, they weren't profitable. They were over leveraged because they had to borrow money in order to stay profitable. And then now, like you're saying, like these stimulus bills are all it's justified. It's justified by. Yeah, I think and that's what the belief is that like. Why? Okay, the C's and all this stuff they say, but like,
it's all bullshit.
But like, if you just look at it from an objective perspective, and I was watching a little bit of the inauguration, it was eerie. It was eerie, dude. Watching his motorcade come down the street where the parade would be, but there's no civilians, there's no spectators. Each side of the street is shoulder by shoulder lined with guardsmen. Full military parade coming down. Anyone could say whatever they want. Maybe they don't. Maybe the market doesn't understand because they haven't like been around the military like we have and stuff. But like you understand, like that's a big deal. It was super eerie, and it's still it's gonna be locked down. I'm sure.
Bro, that shit was posturing. Number one, he's showing to the world, hey, we're back. All right. There's great resets happening, and we have shit locked down here, and we will do things by force. That's what that showed. That's pretty much just like the chaos has stopped. What that showed was no more chaos. That's why they pretty much didn't show Antifa destroying Portland and protested in Boston of Black Lives Matter Antifa happening the day of the inauguration. which happened. And there's been protests every day in Portland. They don't show that at all in the media, have they?
Yeah, they're saying fuck. They're saying fuck Biden. We don't care. And then they're just still destroying it.
You know why they don't show it, right? They showed the inauguration. They're showing everyone around the world the chaos has stopped. We have smashed everything. We won't show any more of the lefty Antifa, Black Lives Matter stuff. That shit, we're squashing that. And anything on the right, we're squashing that. And then we're picking the shit back up where we left it. This is how we're gonna do it. That was a show of force, like a dog whistle, and people ignored it, man, because they're sheep. They're they're hypnotized. People are hypnotized. They can't see that. They use the whole insurrection bullshit, which was bullshit because obviously we just know that they let them in.
Yep.
You just let them in, and then they use the whole guise of the cops, since they're white, they let that happen. No, there was more than that. It was a show of force. And now look at what's happening. Now if we have an economic situation happen, let's say next month or the next couple of weeks, because of a little bit of what's happening right now and everything on top of that, people will go back to the streets and they will go to Washington, and they can't do anything because the military's there. The military's there.
Yep.
What can you do?
Can't do anything.
Exactly. They showed what will happen if you go against the government. That's what that whole thing there was, right? The Republican people that were QAnoners and Trump supporters, whatever, they went there and they did what Black Lives Matter and a lot of these Democrats been doing, and they were squashed and they have been persecuted. And, people have been fired, arrested, and all of that, right?
Yep.
That does not just... People think that's just because of the right is crazy or whatever. That's their whole thing. Oh, the right, they're crazy. They deserve that. But it's like, they're going to come for you next. You're next. There's no left or right here. All right? There's only them and us. That's it. You're next. They will come after you. When you are going to go up there to demand what was promised, they will squash you. They just showed this is what happens when you come for us, the government. We will destroy you. That whole show of force that they did, that pretty much was like, hey, don't come for us, government. We'll destroy you.
Luckily, there's an army of memers in the background. Yeah. That's one thing that is talked about now is memes. I've been seeing I've been seeing companies wanting people that have meme skills now. So I think if anything, memes going forward, this whole idea of the cypherpunk, solar punk, just movement of, the running tech in a more private, secure way. We'll have to see, dude. It's going to be fascinating to watch overcome. It's going to be fascinating to watch happen and play out. I think that what happened over the last couple of days with this Reddit group was a real turning point as far as regulators being able to see what the market could do to a stock or what the collective group could do to an actual stock, whether it was one stock or a couple of stock, right? Now they have to regulate because of the fact they don't want it to happen again. So I think the next couple of weeks are going to play a big role. We'll be talking about it for sure. I really think that from here on out, what we see this spring, what we see from here on out is going to really dictate how the next couple of years are going to go. Because if it gets squashed and nothing else happens to this, I think it's what we've been talking about as far as this authoritative, technocratic kind of control of speech and information. But if there's a big enough movement that forms, then it's going to get interesting. Right. Then it's going to get... And hey, we've been talking about it this whole time, the fact that this stuff is going on, dude. Anything that's been going on, all this chaos, it's playing into the times, it's playing into the historical cycles. And, but what I'm just hoping, and I got to put it out there, at least for the optimists, love always wins. Love always wins. I hope, unless they separate us so much as humans that we become not humans anymore, like we've talked about, or now we're these different beings. But like, damn, like I would really freaking hope, and you haven't really seen it too much now, but if enough people are feeling the same way, and at least there's a way for them to know it and collectively unite, hopefully something happens. I don't know though. We'll see.
We just need to play the long game. We need to play the long game, man. That's it. Play the long game. Stay strong.
Yeah.
And do not allow to become divided. Put aside the institutional thinking. If people could do that, we could get really far. And it starts with everyone putting the right and the left mentality out of the way. We need to just erase that.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
That's it. If you could do that, then you really have the strength. And I think it could happen.
Yeah.
But it takes discipline, man. Look, talking about millennials, TikTok has been magic with all this.
Yep.
What has TikTok has awoken so many of the Gen Zers.
Yep.
Because Gen Z is like the generation that people are worried about, because it's like they could jump on the bandwagon and be institutionalist type of people, right? Stick with those institutions because they could get brainwashed easily.
Yep.
Or totally against. And I'm on TikTok all the time because it's like unfiltered. Like TikTok is unfiltered. I don't know if it's because it's a Chinese app, so maybe China just wants that to happen in America as a way for people to, keep them woken against their government. That's my way of thinking. It's like, let them, we're not going to filter that. Let them do what they have to do amongst themselves. And it makes sense because a lot of the stuff that I see on TikTok, you see a lot of young people, younger than you and I, in their early 20s.
I guess if you can, it's a good thought.
They're not people. They're world.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I love and I like TikTok for that reason too. The only thing is like the whole, obviously centralized control of the servers. But I think you might be right though. Like if let's assume all that TikTok data, your AI is good enough to break down that data and be able to categorize it in a way that makes sense to a computer or something. And like if you're able to see that, there's so much chatter or categories that are maybe anti-establishment or something, that you feed it back to just those echo chambers, it would work. That's the scary thing about this whole like AI movement and stuff is like, dude, Elon said it himself, like we are the neural networks, right? We're doing everything that we're seeing is because of us. It's all a result of us. At the end of the day, the only way the neural networks are able to be built is because we fed it with all the social media websites, all of our inputs, all of our data, and we're our own demise at the end of the day.
Obviously, the Matrix is the only thing the Matrix got wrong, and it's not. And I think I heard that the only reason they put that in there was because of the bigwigs at, I think it was Paramount or whatever production company. The Matrix showed that we were a power system, right? So we're all plugged in, and we were, they were extracting energy off of us.
Yep.
It's not energy they're extracting from us. It's data.
Yep.
Data, and the original, the ones, I forgot their names, the one that wrote the Matrix.
Yep.
They said that was the original way they were going to do it was data. But the bigwigs didn't understand that. They only understood the concept of energy. So they had to change it into energy. But it's freaking data. They for evolution to continue on this trajectory, I feel like AI will understand, because the thing is, AI doesn't have feelings. It only understands logic. And genes have logic. So genes and AI will understand the same things, which is evolve and pass down data. And that is going to be an issue for everybody, because our genes don't only have data. We are people. We have emotions and we have thoughts and all of that, right? Based off of our genes. We are in the midst of that shift, and I think it's going to be painful because there's going to be evolutionist and traditionalist. Right now, the people that are yelling and screaming like me, I am a traditionalist because I want freedom. I want freedom. I want freedom for the people. I want that concept of like the Constitution. Sure, the Constitution isn't perfect, but damn, it's pretty freaking good.
Right.
Evolution does not want that. They want a centralized organism feeding off of us, extracting data to evolve. Not the humans. It's more of like the globe as a whole organism.
Yeah.
That's what we have the whole concept of like aliens and reptilians and all of these different dimensions, bro. And that's another conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because
it's good though. It's good though because like we've tied on the topics of like human evolution and just like how things are more complex. We talk about Terence McKenna and like this curve that's happened where like there was normal genetics, now there's eugenics and stuff, and like why are humans on Earth? Maybe it's just to be as complex as we can be, and that's why it's like, you know, like we're our own. It's our own enemy, but at the same time, it's about this pattern of the natural world and expansion of the universe, and it's almost feels a little like predestined in a way, right? Like
that's another thing. Predestination. Yeah. Our genes we are predisposed based off of our genes, right? So if our genes are designed a certain way, we're predisposed to that. And yes, we have environment, and environment colludes or contradicts genes, and things happen because of that. Shit, fucking cancer is a breakdown of our proteins in our genes, right? There's a lot of things, and it can happen because of environment and all. But at the end of the day, we are a transporter of data. So this is why like the whole simulation theory fascinates me, because what the simulation theory tells me is that we are processors. That's what we are. Like humans, animals, plants, everything that's living. And plants are living. That's what I believe. Plants live. They have a life. And they, right. Right? And
I think nature's intelligent. The mushroom stuff, we talked about a lot of that stuff.
Fungi, right? There's an organism there. Reefs, right? Coral reefs. Yep. This is organism, and it's all transferring data. So, if let's say the simulation theory was true, and we are in the simulation, then we're processing data for what? For who? For whom? What is it? God? What is God? Gods or another? What is it? There's something, because it's transferring hands. It's shifting. And what's the end goal? You know what? Does the Earth turn into like, a supercomputer? And what's the supercomputer for? Is this supercomputer to be handed off to another life being or beings or whatever? Right? And to me it's important because everything we've talked about and we've been talking about has to do with all of this. Right? Because we talk about the Great Reset. Why is there a Great Reset? What is the talk about a Great Reset? It's not a conspiracy theory because Davos talks about it. All of these freaking corporatists talk about it, right? That's what they're trying to do. Why are they trying to do that? Why are we trying to, have this synergy with AI? You have Neuralink. That's another thing, right? Elon Musk, what he says is that he wants to do this because it's needed, because he says that other entities are doing the same, and it's pretty much a competition of who's going to get there first and who's going to pretty much pave the way for the future. Because if we allow another entity to do it or have the power of, then and the same could be said about who these entities are that are doing it. There's all this stuff, all right? It's the control, but at the end of the day, it's like, where is it going? Why? Number one, why our genes want to keep getting passed on? This desire of our genes to keep passing on this information. Memes, right? Why do memes work? Memes are pretty much speech, right? Speech. It keeps getting, it's the physical, spoken word within a language that's being passed on from generations to generations, right? That's where we got the Torah, we got the Bible, we got the Quran, we got all of these books being passed on. We got, quotes. They keep getting passed on. Why is that desire? And the genes, that desire, and then language. Why is language so important? And then we need to, we don't want languages to be erased, because then we become lost. We want languages to, and it becomes a thing, right? Think of it. The English language is the lingua franca that is spoken majority throughout the world. And why is that? It's because it's the easiest way to transfer memes and spoken thoughts, and we could keep on moving. So there's all that's in there, but what's the freaking purpose?
I think that question, though, no, you're never going to answer that question.
Of course not.
Right, and
but it has to do, right?
It has to deal with everything. Yeah. And I look at us as almost like humans, so we talk about the the mycelium, the mushroom networks. You look at the internet as a network, growing living organism, mycelium, growing living organism, and then this idea of human consciousness and Homo sapiens, and this we're humans and we're different than animals because we have consciousness. We have this, and now we're learning this collective consciousness. The fact that all of us are really connected in one way or another. It's not just the individual, right? And maybe we as an organism, as a collective, we can't see it, we don't know it, but we feel united to each other. We all, at the end of the day, we're all composed of the same things. All of these different religions in these books, they talk about unity and the family and spirituality, and I know a lot of the spiritual stuff we talked about, especially with the mushrooms and stuff, it all breaks down the ego, and it makes you understand that you're connected as a whole to this living, breathing group of people. So maybe it's that we are this unseen collective consciousness, this unseen collective organism that is growing. Because when we pass on genetic code, we grow. We have kids, we grow. The network grows, and maybe that's it. Maybe it acts kind of just like the mycelium stuff, I think it's important, though, because humans have evolved. There's different languages that have been spoken. Different groups of people. I got some Blackhawks flying overhead right now.
Uh-oh, they're coming to catch you away, brother.
They're coming.
Coming.
No, but it's this collective consciousness, though, I think that this is important. I think it's important for people to understand because it helps the mental health stuff. It helps us understanding ourselves more. A lot of what we talk about ties directly into just that, and people feel it, they understand it from a subconscious level, I think, but our realities, our subjective realities, shape just who we are, and we don't understand it. I think that's really it's there.
We are learning, though, when we're going into a crazy place, because this whole UFO talk, I don't know what to believe, but there's a lot of that chatter going on about extraterrestrial. Either it's the whole narrative of an ET type of alien, like the movies,
mm-hmm.
or it's another type of entity, they're demons or religious, just all of these thoughts coming around.
Yeah. And
we're moving into something as well. And a lot of people think it's probably the government trying to create this idea, right? Because Nixon said that the best way Reagan, the best way to have everyone around the world join into one is by creating a common enemy, and it would be UFOs, aliens. So there's people talking about Project Bluebeam. I don't know if you've heard about that and all of these things, bro. It's crazy.
No.
But it goes into the conspiracy world, but it's there's this operation that they were trying to create where they would project a beam into the sky for the world to see, and that it would project a beam coming down, and that there will be chaos and fear. I'll send you the link. And this shit is actually it's real, it's actually mentioned, it's legit, but they want to call it a conspiracy theory because obviously everything's a conspiracy theory when it comes to the government, right? You want to, but it's crazy because it's like you have people like the ex-chair of freaking Mossad or whatever saying that, or Israeli intelligence, which is Mossad, saying that yeah, there's this galactic federation and all of that shit, and that we're not ready. Something like that. So you have this happening, right? Yeah. It's so much going on, and I think it goes back to what we're talking about, the changing of the age, right? We're the age of Aquarius, the Kali Yuga, and the cycles, and it's like we're seeing that huge change, and it's all coming about, and we are seeing it. And at the same time, we have the internet, so everyone's seeing things. So I think it's only a matter of time for, like, I don't know.
It's going to be a good ride.
Yes.
Looking
Season 2 of Earth is going to be interesting.
Yeah. We'll get into that in another episode. I think that'll be good.
Yeah.
As long as we don't get banned for the whole conspiracy talk. That seems to be a thing now. You can't even have fun anymore. You can't even talk about reality. It's like, oh, we got to be careful with that talk.
Yeah, we're gonna shut them down.
Yeah, man. All right, dude. I think from where I am today.
All right, guys. Well, we'll talk next week. We'll see where we're at with all of this.
Yeah, I think either way, we're trying to come up with different segments of content too. So we've talked in the past, and if you're still watching at this point, you're pretty committed. I think anyone that's listening this far is pretty committed. But even for ourselves, we'll be segmenting content in a way. So like the Nonconformist is more than just a name; it's a lifestyle, and there's a lot of different parts of that lifestyle that exists. And I think we'll try to do a good job of shedding light onto all the different communities and people that are a little different than the norm of society, right? So the Nonconformist as a whole, I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, the next episodes we're going to create different types of episodes for different types of things: health, mental health, philosophy, things like that. So we can engage the different parts of each individual groups. And since that's stuff that we believe in, as as Nonconformists, we look at the world differently. We live differently. We try to live differently. So we want to talk more about that. But we'll still have these conversations just like this. This is more us talking about like the current events. So this is like our current event stuff. We'll continue with that. We want to build upon that. So bear with us. We're trying to create some better avenues on our social media aside from our website and all of that, where a lot of you guys are actually on. Viewing us. So, yeah, thanks for listening.
It'll be good, y'all. All right, man.
All right.
See you next
Peace.
time.